Our planet is so full of surprises that every single day we come across something new and amazing. These discoveries can be made on land, in the sea, and even in space. But with insanely thick layers of ice covering parts of the Earth, there's a new revelation happening all the time. The melting ice is revealing all sorts of crazy things frozen in time. Some of these are too strange for us to decipher. For example, fossils from the Cold War, and even lost treasures. Today, we'll acquaint you with some of these mysterious things found frozen in ice in different parts of the world. But before we get started, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell for more amazing content. The world's longest canyon. Researchers have been able to discover the evidence of the largest ever canyon in the world located below the Greenland ice sheet. It's also believed to be longer than the world-famous Grand Canyon. This immense gorge extends from the highest point in central Greenland to the Petermann Glacier located on the northwestern coast. The length of this canyon is about 460 miles, or 750 kilometers. Researchers also believe that the ravine in the canyon could even be extending further deep beneath the ice sheet towards the south, where researchers cannot observe. Some people would be aware of the famous Great Chasm located in Arizona, and this canyon would resemble it if the area was not blocked by the ice. The canyon is 2,600 feet or 792 meters deep at some locations, whereas at some points its width is up to 6 miles or 9.6 kilometers. Its distinctive features also include V-shaped walls and a flat bottom. Researchers do consider that probably the canyon was carved by the flowing water. Although it's not the deepest canyon in the world, as that award is still owned by the Mariana Trench, which is 35,827 feet or 10,920 meters. However, this canyon is the longest as it beats the 308-mile-long or 495-kilometer Yalong Tsangpo Grand Canyon in China. You may be interested to ask what makes this canyon so special. Scientists need to answer these aspects. People have been wondering what happens to water when it melts under Greenland's ice sheet. It's well known that the water is drained into the sea instead of pooling in the center. Research has shown that water is collected at the bottom of an enormous canyon and then moves straight into the ocean. There exists an underground river channel beneath a thick layer of ice. Horse DNA in the soil. A strange discovery was made about a decade ago in Klondike region in the Yukon, Canada, when samples of soil were collected from under a thick layer of permafrost. For quite a long time, the sample remained stuck in a freezer at McMaster University. A few months ago, researchers brought out the icy soil samples from the freezer, and they were baffled to discover the DNA of a species of woolly mammoth and species of wild horses that were extinct thousands of years ago. The DNA discovered is known as environmental DNA, which is composed of microscopic residue left behind by different animals when they move through a specific environment. By analysing these DNA samples, researchers were able to discover that animals from the Ice Age existed a lot longer than what was generally imagined before becoming extinct. Most astonishingly, the DNA found in the soil samples came from just 5,000 years ago. It shows that the woolly mammoths and Ice Age horses, the ancestors of North American horses, were still existing in Canada alongside humans. It means that these animals lived for 8,000 years longer than previously thought by scientists. Frozen Brazilian yacht. On the 7th of April 2012, a Brazilian yacht was frozen in thick ice and it was named the Marsem Film, which is roughly translated in English as Endless Sea. The boat belonged to a famous Brazilian journalist and entrepreneur João Lara Mesquita and broke apart in Maxwell Bay. It was being used by a crew of 4 men who were busy filming a documentary off the Antarctic coast. Due to strong winds blowing over 14 knots, accompanied by the waves approximately 6 feet or 1.8 meters tall, it had pummeled it and finally the boat capsized. The crew called for help on the radio. Fortunately, a Chilean naval base was located in the region that rescued the affected crew, but they could not save the yacht. The yacht sunk about 30 feet or 9.1 meters deep and was stuck there in the ice as the water froze, whereas its hull split in half. The situation made a unique sight as the boat was trapped below the surface, but still it was visible from the surface. João waited for about 10 months until the ice thawed, and subsequently efforts were made to recover the yacht. Due to a long time spent under the ice, the hull was damaged quite seriously. On being recovered, the yacht was found to be beyond repair. Therefore, it could only be dumped in a salvage yard. Dangerous gases. Rising temperatures all over the world are causing serious environmental issues. Similarly, increasing temperatures in the Arctic are also creating serious challenges. Trees in the black spruce forests located in central Alaska along the Tanana River have been falling and gradually being absorbed in the bog. In the past, the area used to be hard-packed ice, but nowadays it seems to be more of a sloppy swamp of rain and snowmelt. Due to rising temperatures, the permafrost in the north is thawing. This process has led to one of the most horrible scenarios of increasing the emission of greenhouse gases. Merritt Turetsky, an Alaskan scientist, and his team recently conducted a study that discovered the presence of a huge gas reserve under the ice. They confirmed that in recent years, with increased thawing, enormous bursts of gas are gushing into the atmosphere. This process is called abrupt thaw and contributes a major portion of gas being released into the atmosphere. Although the impact of this gas is much smaller than gas emissions caused by human activities, it is also considered that thawing permafrost is expected to amplify the impact of climate change created by humans. A recent report by National Geographic has shown that the effects of the gas under the ice will be enhanced by about 20%. Jewels on a French glacier. A lucky mountaineer found a treasure trove while climbing Mont Blanc, a French glacier, in 2013. The treasure comprised emeralds, sapphires and rubies and was stashed in a metal box. Experts believe that the box might have been on board an Indian Airlines plane that crashed into the mountain about 50 years ago. The astonished mountaineer opened the half-frozen metal box stuck in a chunk of glacier ice. The jewels were estimated to be worth $340,000. The mountaineer, being a responsible citizen, handed over the treasure to the local authorities once he finished climbing. He had no intention to retain the precious gems belonging to someone else. As per French law, anyone finding treasure in the mountains has to deposit it with the police. Well, his good behaviour benefited him, as 8 years after the discovery, local authorities agreed to share the profit from the gemstones with the mountaineer. He was paid $169,000 as his share in the profit. 2 Air India passenger planes had crashed in 1950 and 1966 on Mont Blanc. On different occasions, mountaineers came across the debris, human remains, and pieces of luggage frozen in the ice. Local authorities believe that the gemstones probably belonged to some passenger of the plane that crashed in 1966 while it was on its way to New York. 117 people were killed in the crash, and one of the passengers perhaps carried along with them the whole trove of treasure to America. Cold War fossils. As part of Project Iceworm, during the Cold War, USA resorted to digging a chunk of northwestern Greenland. In 1966, the USA had sent a covert mission to establish a nuclear facility underneath Greenland's ice sheet. The base was to be used for launching nuclear warheads against the Soviet Union. The project remained a top secret for decades and perhaps unbelievable even today. The creation of a subterranean ice base might sound like a spy movie plan instead of a real American military project. Project Iceworm proved to be a failure, and the Camp Sentry was finally abandoned. Ice core samples taken by scientists during the initial construction of the base were also abandoned and stuffed in a freezer in Denmark, where these remained neglected for decades. In 2019, a team of scientists decided to investigate these Cold War samples. The outcome proved to be immensely fascinating. They found fragments of fossilized plants, life forms that were believed to have existed millions of years before, and it shows that Greenland had not been under ice for too long. Until recently, it was believed that Greenland had been under ice for 3 million years. However, the fossilized plants indicate that there had been a tundra-like climate on Greenland during that time, which could not have been possible in the absence of ice. Researchers think that at some stage in the last 2.6 million years, the ice sheet on Greenland was lost and it turned into a tundra and finally, once again, regained its ice sheet. Expedition ship frozen solid. During an Antarctic expedition in 2014, MV Akademik Shakalski, the ship which carried the Australasian Antarctic expedition crew, was stranded in ice. It remained stuck for 10 days at Christmas. They requested a Chinese icebreaker to rescue them, and an Australian icebreaker was also rerouted. Initially, they had approached a French icebreaker, but it had to go back as the quantity of ice was beyond its capacity to handle. A helicopter team finally reached to airlift 52 members on the ship, which included the scientists and tourists. The ship got stuck while trying to clear a cluster of rocky islands known as the Hodgman Islands. However, water froze and suddenly ice came over. By the eve of Christmas, the captain ascertained that they could not get to the open water, which was just 2 nautical miles from their location. Soon the distance from the water turned into 20 nautical miles. Ice builds very quickly in Antarctica. Effective international assistance resulted in freeing the ship from the iceberg. Ultrahot super iconic ice. A fascinating discovery has been made by scientists which are called ultrahot super iconic ice. It seems to be a mysterious phase of water not known previously. Scientists succeeded in creating this new form of ice by squeezing a water droplet between a pair of diamonds and blasting it with an extremely powerful laser. It is water that exists at the same pressure and temperature that can be found at the center of the Earth. Before this, researchers had only succeeded to produce supericonic ice for 20 nanoseconds and then it dissolved. It was created by shockwaves, whereas the latest procedure helped researchers to make it stable enough to study. It is termed the 18th phase of ice to be discovered. Ultrahot supericonic ice is a cube of ice with flowing hydrogen atoms inside it. Mysterious draining lakes. NASA has been successful in discovering a new strange system of draining lakes under the Antarctic ice. 2 new lakes of frigid water between 1.2 and 2.5 miles on the southernmost part of the continent. These subterranean lakes fill and drain cyclically. Scientists believe that it could influence how meltwater flows into the Southern Ocean, which influences currents and temperatures across the world. These lakes are situated at the bottom of the ice sheet. As per scientists, these lakes are formed due to pressure and friction, or even due to geothermal heat. This discovery has been possible due to NASA's ice satellite, using lasers for measuring elevations of the ice. In January, scientists ascertained that just one of these lakes, situated under Amory Ice Shelf in eastern Antarctica, had flushed approximately 198 billion gallons, or 750 billion litres, into the ocean in 3 days. Interestingly, it is a critical system that impacts seasonal dips in temperature as cold air currents move around the world. It shows how our weather systems are connected. Mysterious ice ship. Satellite imagery led to a shocking discovery as a strange object had been spotted from a huge mass of ice in Antarctica that has kept a lot of people bewildered. The object seems to be an enormous ship, somehow locked in an iceberg. The astonishing ship has been spotted about 100 miles or 160 kilometers away from the coast in Antarctica. The suspected ship is considered to be about 400 feet or 121 meters long. So far, no one has been able to appropriately ascertain where the ship came from, who owned it, and how it got trapped in the iceberg. The situation is quite complicated, as none of the available records have shown a ship of this size that sailed near Antarctica going missing. This suspected vessel remains shrouded in mystery. However, we can just guess what might have happened. It seems that the ship seems to be a cruise liner. Its appearance seems to represent a side view of the cruiser, as the satellite image shows rows of windows from the cabins all along the hull and smokestacks on the top of the boat. Some people believe in a wild theory that the boat trapped in the iceberg is probably one that belonged to a lost Nazi naval base established in Antarctica about 100 years ago. Some other people consider it to be a ghost vessel that was abandoned at sea and floated down to Antarctica. Subsequently, it tipped over, becoming frozen with a huge thick sheet of ice. Out of several possibilities, the most plausible one is that it's probably one large chunk of ice that looks like a huge ship once seen from a distance. What's your opinion? Do share with us. We hope you guys enjoyed the video. Do tell us in the comment section which one of these icy discoveries blew you away. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. See you all next time.